South Asia, testifying that 4 out of 5 of them are likely, nearly certain to go back to fighting again. You have James Clapper, again, in private testimony. This is not what he and the administration is saying in public, saying, in effect, these guys are going to go back and fight. We're returning fighters to the enemy, not fighters, but commanders to the enemy while the war is still going on. That's the problem.
Juan, you like to take the other side in these discussions. Is there any part of how this has been handled and the actual substance of the decisions that you want to defend?
I don't think it's a matter of defending, Chris. I think it's a matter of us as Americans not getting lost in the, I think, troubling optics of the White House ceremony. Or, you know, Steve Hayes does a great job of reporting on all this stuff, but I think it's, again, you can't get lost in the fog for the key, very clear principle. The clear principle is we don't leave soldiers behind. And at the moment, I think what's necessary here, I'm reminded this Sunday morning of the story of the prodigal son, that you don't make judgments as you have the opportunity to bring that child back. America should be loving this child at this moment. Obviously, we don't know why he left. We think he's a troubled person. We think he may have lost a sense of America's mission. All true. But the idea is we don't leave people in the enemy's hands. The enemy saw him as an American soldier. That young man suffered. He was caged, Chris. His parents suffered. And yet people want to argue about the father's beard. They want to say they shouldn't have a parade. Let the military decide. The military is best positioned, not us sitting here on this panel, and not all the political people on the Republican side who have flip-flopped, Chris, in the most craven way. Unbelievable. No. Yeah, we got to bring
the details of this
back
matter.
in
No.
any way we
They
can.
didn't flip-flop. The details of this really matter. The details of these Guantanamo detainees, even if you accept the principle, I think you made the case very well, you accept the principle that we want to bring everybody back, the details of this transfer matter. These 5 guys, that makes this, I think, very difficult for some of the people who wanted to bring Bergdahl back in theory, very difficult for them to swallow. And on your second point, look, I think you're right. There are some people who have jumped to conclusions here and want to say that he was an enemy collaborator, and we know this right now. We don't know that. But at the same time, if you look at what we heard from his squad mates, they said that, you know, there were intelligence reports immediately that he had sought out the Taliban. Those guys in the field by themselves they don't have a choice. They can't sit here and think about, you know, whether we should treat him as a prodigal son, we should think about him this way, we should love him as much as we can. Their you-know-whats were on the line as they went after him to try to recover him. They can't think of this as theoretical. They heard that he went out and sought out the Taliban. They've got to regard him in that way.
Steve, you and I operate in life as friends, and we got each other's back. But I want to tell you something. Those young men are operating in a way that's different than the military. The military never designated Bergdahl as a deserter, AOL, or dishonorable. In fact, he was promoted while he was absent, and he was treated as an American being held as a prisoner of war.
George, you want to get in? Final thought.
Well, I do. We're all accepting the principle that we leave no one behind. But no principle trumps every other consideration. Every principle must have a limiting principle. Now, if these 5 were a proportionate exchange for Mr. Bergdahl, why not 10? Why not 20? What else are we saying? I mean, because if we go to the Taliban and say, absolutely a principle we will not violate, they'll say, well, good, we can ratchet up the price indefinitely.